Winter came hard and slow, grinding everything into mud and smoke. The fields of Western Europe were bones now, broken trees, twisted wrecks, ghost villages shivering under slate-colored skies. The 3rd Armored kept moving east, the road littered with the remains of both sides' machines. Every burned-out tank looked the same in the snow, nationality erased by fire. Sergeant Will Hanley had stopped trying to count the days. The only measure that mattered was distance, each mile closer to Germany another notch carved into exhaustion. Somewhere behind the fog of war that captured Panzer IV lay disassembled in an English hangar, its secrets already translated into Allied blueprints. But here, on the ground, new monsters waited. They heard the first rumors near Hürtgen Forest. Tigers, the infantry said, voices half awe, half terror. 80mm guns. Frontal armor you can't scratch. Hanley felt the old chill crawl back under his skin. He'd learned not to trust legends, but legends had teeth until proven otherwise. The battalion halted outside a village of blackened stones. A German shell had landed somewhere up the road. The air still trembled with its echo. Lieutenant Carter studied the map under a torn canvas, a candle guttering between coffee cups. Recon says a heavy unit's dug in ahead. Panthers, maybe a tiger. Dorsey whistled low. Guess 50mm won't matter much now. Carter looked up, eyes steady. It always matters. We know the myth game better than they do now. When dawn crawled out of the mist, they rolled forward. The forest swallowed sound until the first shot cracked the stillness. Deep, sharp, final. A shell screamed past and punched through the lead Sherman, turning it into a bloom of fire. The men hit the dirt, instinct over thought. Through the trees they glimpsed it, vast, squat, deliberate, the tiger eye, gun barrel long as a spear. It moved like a cathedral on tracks. Hanley's heart slammed. For a second he felt small again, like that morning in France when he'd first seen the Panzer IV. But then another thought cut through the fear. Every giant bleeds somewhere. Flank right. Carter shouted. We're faster, use it. They looped through broken hedgerows, engines howling, mud flying. The tiger turned its turret, slow, majestic, deadly. Hanley remembered Ridgway's words. Understanding is the first armor against fear. He aimed where the side plates angled shallowly, breathed once, fired. The shell struck near the sprocket wheel, sparks cascaded, armor dented. Not a kill, but a wound. Another Sherman fired from the opposite ridge. This one hit true, flame burst from the Tiger's rear deck. Smoke poured skyward like a black flag surrendering. Silence fell. Even birds seemed afraid to break it. Carter leaned out of the hatch, face ghost pale and wet with rain. 50mm taught us where to look, he said. Hanley nodded, pulse hammering. And where not to. They moved through the wreckage carefully. The Tiger lay still, its myth gutted. Hanley touched the side armor. Thick, yes, but cracked open like any other shell of steel. Inside, heat shimmered and silence ruled. He felt no triumph, only the heavy gravity of what men built to outdo one another. That evening the division bivouacked among ruins. Fires flickered against shattered church walls. Someone found a radio. Glenn Miller's ghostly tune drifted through static. For a while the men listened, letting melody patch what silence had torn. Carter sat beside Hanley, pouring tin cup coffee that tasted of smoke. Remember the first one we found? That 50mm wonder. How could I forget? Carter smiled thinly. Back then we thought learning the thickness would make the war make sense. Did it? He stared into the fire. Maybe a little. Maybe it just taught us how deep fear runs. Snow began to fall, soft, merciful, erasing tracks and blood alike. Around them, the war felt both endless and almost over. Hanley pulled the small metal tag from his pocket, the one he'd taken from the dead Panzer crew months ago. The names were half-worn: Keller, Brandt, Weiss. He rubbed the edges with his thumb, wondering if somewhere a German mother still prayed for them. He tossed the tag into the flames. It hissed once, then disappeared. Rest, he whispered. By February 45, Allied armor rolled through the Siegfried Line. Newspaper photos showed columns of Shermans driving past captured Tigers. The captions spoke of invincible machines finally broken. None mentioned the men who'd first learned that armor was just another form of fear. When peace finally came, Hanley returned to a quiet America that felt smaller than he remembered. The tanks stayed behind, hulks rusting in foreign fields. Carter went to Washington, advising on new designs. Travers became a mechanic again, fixing tractors instead of tanks. And Hanley, he built houses. Would not steel. Walls meant to keep out rain, not bullets. Years later, at a museum opening, he stood before a restored Panzer IV displayed under bright lights. Children pressed their hands to the glass, marveling. Plaque read, "Captured 1944, front armor 50 millimeters." Hanley smiled. The number that once symbolized terror now sat quietly behind glass, smaller than memory. He reached out, fingertips against the cool pane, and saw his reflection overlay the tank's gray flank. Old man, old war, same thin skin. A curator approached. "You served?" "Yeah. We met once," he said, nodding toward the tank. She laughed politely, not understanding. What was it like? He considered. Like realizing the monsters were made of the same stuff as you. Outside, dusk painted the sky the color of gunmetal. Hanley walked toward the parking lot, the distant sound of traffic echoing like tracks on gravel. In the fading light he could almost hear Carter's voice from decades ago. Every giant bleeds somewhere. He smiled, climbed into his truck, and drove away as the museum lights blinked on behind him, soft gold against gray steel. Epilogue. 50 millimeters of memory. The war left behind its ghosts in metal, Shermans rusting beside Panzer shells, tigers asleep under moss. Historians measured armor thickness, gun velocity, kill ratios, but the soldiers who had touched those plates remembered something else. The sound of rain on steel, the tremor of engines before battle, the moment belief turned into truth. Hanley never forgot that first morning in France, the fog lifting from a wreck that wasn't what the world said it was. 50 millimeters. Thin, almost delicate, yet enough to terrify armies. Not because it was strong, but because men had believed it was. In the end, that was the lesson the captured Panzer IV taught them all. Fear is measured in millimeters, and courage begins just one thinner.